Welcome to the Environmental Justice Lab. I'm Dr. Joseph. Thank you for watching me on YouTube and on Instagram. I am still talking about the language of justice. It is still Black History Month. We are still dealing with this idea of how we talk about the people we talk about and what we're trying to accomplish. I want to keep talking about it. And just for this short video, I want to speak a little bit about DEI, just a little bit. If you know DEI, you know it stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you've been keeping up over the last few years, you would have seen an explosion in the number of DEI divisions and offices and officers and consultants and firms that focus on DEI efforts, right? The idea that we're going to bring these concepts to your organization. We're going to show you how to do it. We're going to make sure you get it done. And so you can become more diverse and more equitable and more inclusive. But here's my question. It's just a question. Um, is it safe to assume that these DEI efforts and these DEI initiatives are working towards justice, working towards the actual eradication of the disparities, of the inequities, of the issues that we've identified as we continue to push for justice in our communities, in our cities, states, countries, whatever it is? Is DEI doing that? It's just a question. And I don't know the answer because every DEI place is different. But what I don't want is for anybody to make assumptions about what's going on because you see DEI in the title or you see DEI on the website. So let's not get confused about what's actually happening when these things come to a company, come to a university, come to an organization, come to an entity. DEI is an acronym for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the idea is that by reorienting, reorganizing, restructuring how we do things as a society, as a company, or as an organization, we can become, quote, more diverse, right? So there's more people from different backgrounds in our workplaces, in our organizations. We can become more equitable. So we can treat people with equity, give them the resources, the support they need. We're going to do this through this DEI effort and initiative so the diverse people that come will have an equitable experience while they're there. And then the I is for inclusion, more inclusive. So you feel better, you're more comfortable, you're more welcomed in those spaces. If you typically weren't, well, now you are because we have DEI initiatives that will seek to accomplish that. And so that's generally what's happening. But are we getting justice out of it? And even if we aren't, are the people who claim to be doing these types of things actually doing them? We have to ask the question. We can't just make assumptions anymore. We can't just read a website and just assume that we know what's going on and we can trust what's happening there. Because you have to remember, there was a huge spike in these DEI initiatives and DEI organizations and divisions after 2020, when George Floyd was murdered by that policeman when he kneeled on his neck for 10 minutes. Then people started to see, and apparently only then, it seems, people started to recognize that we have a problem with the way we have dealt with race and ethnicity, particularly in the United States, but I'm sure in other places too. And so DEI kind of moved in as that measure to try and address what we all have seen for so long, which is injustice, inequity across the board, across industries, across our society. DEI came in, and the idea was that these offices, these officers are going to come in and help move things toward a more equitable society as a whole, and specifically in their individual institutions where they're housed. And that's fine, that's great. I hope that's actually happening. But if you're like me and if you're concerned about justice, if you're concerned about true equity and true inclusion and fairness for everyone, I think it's worthwhile to evaluate what these DEI offices are and what they aren't, what they're saying they're producing and what's actually happening. And so when we talk about it from the justice perspective, because what I don't want is just a more colorful workplace. You know what I mean? So you just have, instead of all white or all black or all women, you have white and black and male and female and, you know, different international groups and different people with different views and affiliate. And it kind of we're all just here. And we're trying to say that because we're all here, we're moving toward justice and we're moving toward equity. I don't know if that's true. And if it is, we need to be very specific about what we're asking companies and organizations to do and how they should be engaged in this fight for justice. So we have to change our language. Remember, this is the Language of Justice series. The way we talk about things is important. The words that we use, the places that we put our time and energy matter. We can't just assume that because there's a DEI office somewhere, that work's being done, we can move on somewhere else and do something different. No, there's no assumption there. I don't know what you're doing, and I don't know what is happening. And so when we talk about things like clean water for everyone, access to food for everyone, the idea that the air you breathe should be clean for everyone, I need to know that all of those DEI officers and all those DEI offices are assisting in moving us toward that reality. That's when it matters to me. So I don't want to get caught up in, I like to call the DEI trap. It's like a trap. You get complacent and you get sidetracked by the DEI labels and the DEI kind of apparatus that you forget about the fight for justice. So this is how it could look. One thing that happens a lot with DEI offices is performance, performative kind of external visuals that give an impression of something that's not really there. You know how this works. Social media, you post the Black History Month fact and you highlight your favorite Black female employee who's doing a really good job because she has been for 20 years, but you wait until Black History Month to highlight that fact. Those kinds of things. You're performing. You're just putting on for the public this idea that this is the kind of organization you are and what you're about. But we don't know that until Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. Is that when we find out how you really feel about injustice and inequity? That's when you want to quote MLK and Rosa Parks and Maya Angelou. That's what you want to do? Don't fall for the performance. What are you actually doing to advance the cause for justice in our society? What are you actually accomplishing? That's the question. And if you can't answer it definitively, then I don't want to hear from your DEI office. And I don't want to see your DEI posts and your liking of this and that. And social media makes it so easy for you to pretend like you're actually getting the work done and you're actually advancing anything noteworthy when you're not. You're just not. And so don't fall for that. Don't get sucked into those performance activities and those actions. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for real substance and real policy and action that makes a difference. So don't fall for that. Another thing I don't want you to fall for. This is really frustrating. Um because there's such a backlash now against DEI, there's this huge fight to keep it. This huge fight to try and maintain the DEI apparatus as though the apparatus itself is somehow a justice endeavor. Now, it might be, depending on what's happening in those specific particular places. We can fight for it when we know that the presence of that office leads to increased enrollment, for instance, of Black students at the university, or a safe haven for people who've been marginalized when it comes to dealing with particular issues. If that's what is happening, we can fight for those offices, fight for those individuals. But this whole blanket, oh, they're trying to get rid of DEI. Well, DEI was brought here to help us get to a place. It wasn't about having DEI. It was about DEI being the tool that we would use to advance the actions and the initiatives that would lead to a just outcome. That's what it was for. That's what it was always about. And so, whether we have DEI or not, the question is, are we moving toward a more just and equitable society? And whether or not DEI contributes to that, for people who care about justice, that's not the point. It's not the point. If you have an institution that doesn't have a DEI office, but is still advancing and still pushing and still making a difference, then what's the point in trying to get one? Let them do the job. And on the other hand, you have an organization who has a DEI office, is not doing anything, but just putting it in their marketing materials and just posting online. We don't need that. You can take that wherever you want to take it. It's not important. It's not necessary. You know who doesn't have a DEI office? Every HBCU in America. They don't have DEI offices. Nobody's clamoring for DEI offices there because they've been doing the work since they were founded to bring change, to bring justice and equity, and to level the playing field for people who couldn't go to college, couldn't get a degree, couldn't get a job, couldn't get access to the resources in our nation. They've been doing it. They don't need a DEI office to pretend like it's happening. They've been doing it. And so let's not get sucked into the fight to save DEI. Continue the fight for justice. Justice is the fight, not DEI. DEI is whatever. It's just a tool. And if that tool doesn't work, we use a different tool. And if that tool doesn't work, we create our own tools and we continue to fight. You don't need to have the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to fight for justice. You don't need that. It's nice to have it. It's nice to have a place where that's what's going on there and resources committed to that effort. It's wonderful if it's there, but if it's not, it doesn't change the mission. It doesn't change what we're trying to accomplish. It doesn't change where we're going. We're going to fight for people and places who need justice done. Period. That's what we're doing. And so don't get sucked into that. Oh, the governor of this state, the governor of that state, the mayor, the city council, they want to defund this and they want to take away stuff. I'm not worried about that. It wasn't there before. It can be gone in an instant. That's going to change what we're doing. It's going to change how we operate. No, it's still the same thing. We're still going and moving toward justice. And so our language has to reflect that. It has to reflect the fact that it doesn't matter what the actual organization of your institution is. We're here for a very specific reason: justice. That's it. It's just justice. So don't fall for that. The last thing I'll say, and I'll be done. I promise I'll be done. The last thing I'll say is, I gotta say this the right way. Um, this is what I'll say. Don't confuse diversity and inclusion and equity for justice. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are meant to lead to justice, to get us there. It's a way, a mechanism to move towards that. It isn't synonymous with it. So I know, and I know it's exciting, right, to see a female CEO, to see a Black president of a company, to see someone from your community ascend to the highest ranks, and we celebrate it, and we're excited for that person and excited about the possibilities, and that's great. It's not justice, though. It's not justice. I mean, you probably heard it. I heard it all the time when Obama was president. The idea was that we finally achieved, right, racial equality. Racial justice has come because Obama is the president. That's what they told us. They want us to believe that. It wasn't true then. It's not true now. Having a diverse workforce, having a diverse set of leaders doesn't in and of itself equate to achieving justice. You know, on the podcast, I say this. I say, if you're concerned about water quality in your town and the mayor comes and says, hey, sorry about that, we can't help you. No money. Can't do it. When you know they got abilities and resources to help, they just choose not to because of who you are and where you live. And that's their approach. It doesn't matter what color that person is when they say that. If it's a Black person, a white person, a Hispanic person, a female, whoever it is, it doesn't matter because justice is the issue. We're fighting for justice. And so the fact that I'm proud of you, fellow Black man, you made it. But what about the justice part? What about the fight? That's what we're trying to do. So whether it's you or someone else, we still need these things to be taken care of. So don't confuse the two. Don't let someone tell you that they've accomplished anything of value simply because they've changed the color of their leadership or the color of their executives. No, I'm glad you did. And the studies all show that a diverse workforce is more productive and more successful and more efficient, and all these metrics. Of course, it's better for your company to do that. But it doesn't mean we're any closer to the kind of justice that we've been advocating for and talking about. Don't confuse the two. Just don't do it. And don't let people lead you to believe that that's what's happening when they make those changes or when you see something different. No, I need justice for my community, for my city, for my neighborhood, for my state, for my country, whatever it is, we're going for that. And your DEI office, unless it's working towards that also, is not a concern for me. And so that's what it is. And so that's all I wanted to share, right? When you think about DEI, you think about all that's going on around DEI and the discussions about it. Look, make sure you keep the main thing, which is this fight for justice for all. That's what we're about. That's what we're trying to accomplish. That's what we're doing here. We're not doing anything else but that. Justice. So let's change our language. Let's talk clearly. Make sure whoever we're talking to, no matter who they are, where they understand what we're here to accomplish. And that's justice. Justice for all. And that's it. Look, I'll see you next time. Y'all have a great day. Peace.